The first hour was the worst. It was filled with a terrible kind of hope. The kind that feels like a balloon being slowly inflated in your chest, getting bigger and tighter until you're sure it's going to burst. I stood just inside the kitchen, peering through the small diamond-shaped window in the swinging door. The dining room was perfect. It was more than perfect. It was a piece of my soul made visible. I called it Haven and Hearth, a place of safety and warmth. For 10 years, every spare dollar, every skipped vacation, every 16-hour day I'd spent working in other people's kitchens had been for this. The tables were made from reclaimed wood from a pier in Michigan, sanded down by my own hands until they were smooth as glass. Each one had a small flickering candle, a sprig of fresh rosemary, and a menu I had written out myself that morning in my best cursive. The air smelled of roasting garlic and thyme, a scent I'd always associated with coming home. The lights were low, casting a golden glow that made the polished wine glasses sparkle. It was ready. I was ready. The reservation book was full, or it was supposed to be. I had personally reserved the first 10 tables for my family. My mom, my dad, my brother Ethan and his fiancée Olivia, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. I had sent them beautiful cardstock invitations 2 months ago. Celebrate the grand opening of Haven and Hearth with me. 1. They read it. Your support means the world. I had written. My mom had called me the day she got it. Oh. Honey? Of course we'll be there. We are so proud of you. I'll tell everyone. So, I'd save them the best tables, the big round one by the window for my parents and brother, and the long banquet table next to it for everyone else. Prime seating. The doors opened at 7 p.m. My staff was buzzing with nervous energy. My sous chef, Sophia, gave my shoulder a squeeze. Ready for this, chef? She asked, a huge grin on her face. I grinned back, the balloon in my chest swelling. More than ready. At 7:05, I was still smiling. They were probably just finding parking. Downtown Chicago parking was a nightmare. At 7:15, my smile started to feel stiff. I smoothed down my crisp white chef's coat for the 10th time. Maybe there was traffic on the expressway. A fender bender could hold things up for a while. At 7:30, the balloon in my chest started to feel painful. The hostess, a sweet college kid named Mia, kept glancing back at me from her stand, her expression shifting from excitement to confusion. The dining room was a sea of empty chairs. Not a single person had walked through the door. My other reservations were for 8 p.m. and later to give my family the first hour to themselves. To make it feel special, I pulled out my phone. No missed calls. No texts. I sent a quick message to the family group chat. Hey everyone. We're open and ready for you. Can't wait to see you all. I watched the 3 little dots appear and then disappear. My mom was typing. I held my breath. The message that came through was a picture. It wasn't a picture of a traffic jam. It was a picture of my family. All of them. They were in a backyard standing around a cheap folding table covered with a plastic tablecloth. My dad was holding up a can of beer. His arm slung around my brother, Ethan. Ethan was grinning from ear to ear, wearing a paper crown that said, "Congrats." My mom stood beside them, her face beaming with a kind of pride I hadn't seen directed at me in years. In the background, I could see my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. They were all there sitting in flimsy plastic chairs, laughing. Underneath the photo, my mom had typed a caption, "Celebrating our boy Ethan's big promotion to senior vice president. So proud of all his hard work." 2. The balloon in my chest didn't burst. It just deflated all at once. A sickening, silent whoosh of air that left me feeling hollowed out and small. I could barely breathe. A promotion. He'd gotten a promotion. I knew he was up for it, but I didn't know it was official. And I certainly didn't know they were throwing him a party tonight. On the grand opening of my restaurant, the single most important night of my entire professional life. I stared at the photo, my thumb hovering over the screen. I zoomed in on their faces, happy, unconcerned. There was no sign of guilt, no hint that any of them felt they should be anywhere else. They weren't late. They were never coming. My phone buzzed again. A text from my cousin Jessica. Not in the group chat, but to me directly. "Oh my God. Victoria, I am so sorry. Your mom said you knew about this and you were moving your opening to next week. I would have been there. I swear my blood ran cold. She lied. My own mother had lied to the rest of the family, so they wouldn't feel bad about choosing my brother over me. She had erased my night, wiped it off the calendar to make their choice easier. Chef Sophia's voice was soft, laced with pity. I hated it. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't look at any of my staff who had worked for weeks to get this place ready, who had believed in me. I just stared at the empty, glowing dining room. All that warmth, all that garlic and rosemary, all that hope. It felt like a funeral. I finally turned around, my face a mask. I couldn't let them see how much it hurt. "There's been a change of plans," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Family emergency. We're not opening tonight. Everyone can go home. You'll be paid for the full shift." They stared at me, a mix of confusion and concern on their faces. No one moved. "Go," I said a little more forcefully. "Thank you for everything. We'll try again tomorrow." Slowly, they began to pack up their knives, hang up their aprons. They left one by one, whispering quiet goodnights and hope everything is okay. But they knew. Of course they knew. The pity was a thick blanket in the air, suffocating me. When the last person was gone, I walked out into the dining room. The silence was absolute. I walked from table to table, my footsteps echoing on the polished hardwood floors. I ran my hand over the back of an empty chair where my father should have been sitting. I picked up a menu from the table I'd set for my mother, my own handwriting mocking me. One by one, I blew out the candles. Each flame I extinguished felt like a tiny death. A dream for my father's approval. A hope for my mother's pride. A fantasy that my brother and I were equals in their eyes. Puff. 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 I left the lights on. I couldn't stand to be in the dark. I just stood in the middle of my beautiful, perfect, empty restaurant and let the crushing weight of what they had done settle over me. They didn't just not show up. They had made a choice. And their choice was him. It had always been him. The silence in the restaurant after the staff left was different. It wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, like the air before a storm. It pressed in on me from all sides, amplifying the sound of my own breathing. For a long time, I just stood there in the middle of the empty floor, looking at the ghosts of a party that never happened. Eventually, my legs started to ache. My training as a chef kicked in. If you have time to lean, you have time to clean. It was a mantra beaten into me over a decade of working in kitchens. So, I started to move. I went to each table and collected the unread menus. I stacked them neatly at the hostess stand, my movements stiff and robotic. Then, I got a clean cloth and a bottle of wood polish. I started wiping down the tables, even though they were already spotless. The circular motion was methodical, mindless. Wipe, turn, wipe, turn. The smell of lemon polish mixed with the fading scent of rosemary from the kitchen. It was a strange, sad combination. I wiped down every single table my family was supposed to be sitting at. I imagined my father holding court, telling one of his loud, booming stories. I imagined my mother fussing over the flowers, telling everyone how this restaurant was all my idea. I imagined Ethan raising a glass of expensive wine, not cheap beer, from a can, and toasting my success. These images were so clear in my head, yet so impossible. They felt like memories from a life I didn't get to live. With every swipe of the cloth, I felt a fresh wave of humiliation. I was cleaning up my own failure, a failure of their making, but it felt entirely my own. After the tables, I started on the napkins. They were linen, a soft dove gray color, folded into perfect crisp rectangles. No one had used them. No one had unfolded one and placed it on their lap. I picked them up one by one and began to refold them. The simple, repetitive task kept my hands busy, but my mind was racing. I thought about all the phone calls, the texts, the family dinners where I had excitedly shared my progress. I found the perfect location. I told them. They'd smiled and nodded. The loan was approved. More nods. I finalized the menu. My dad had clapped me on the shoulder and said, "That's great, sweetie." "Hey, Ethan, did you tell them about the Peterson account you landed?" And just like that, the conversation would pivot to him. It always did. I had been a fool. I had mistaken their polite indifference for quiet support. I thought that when the doors finally opened, when they saw what I had built with my own two hands, they would finally see me. I thought this restaurant would make me real to them. Instead, it had just proven how invisible I truly was. My phone buzzed on the hostess stand, the sound like a gunshot in the silence. I flinched. My first instinct was to ignore it. I didn't want to talk to any of them. I didn't want to hear their excuses. But the buzzing persisted. I walked over and looked at the screen. It was a text from my father. My heart gave a stupid, hopeful little leap. Maybe this was it. Maybe the party was over, and the reality of what they'd done had sunk in. Maybe this was the apology. I opened the message. It read, "We need to discuss the restaurant." Just that. "No, I'm sorry." "No, are you okay?" No explanation. Just a demand. "We need to discuss," as if it were a business negotiation. I stood there staring at the words, and a cold, hard clarity washed over me. This wasn't about support. This wasn't an apology. I knew exactly what this was about. They had seen the pictures I'd posted online over the past few months, the custom bar, the high-end espresso machine, the walk-in cooler stocked with prime cuts of meat. They had seen the price point on the sample menu I'd sent them. They didn't see my dream. They saw an asset. They wanted access. They wanted to be able to walk in on a Saturday night without a reservation and get the best table. They wanted to bring their friends and get a family discount. They wanted me to cater their parties for free. They wanted to feel important, to have a piece of something successful without having to do any of the work. They hadn't shown up to support me. But now that it was real, they were ready to collect their imagined benefits. The thought made me sick. Truly. Physically sick. I leaned against the stand, my stomach churning. They had skipped the single most important night. The one night I needed them. And now they were summoning me to discuss their terms of entry. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was a quiet, clean break. The part of me that had spent 34 years craving their approval, the part that would have done anything to get that proud look my mom gave Ethan in the photo, just withered and died. I didn't reply to my father's text. I didn't even feel the urge to. Instead, I walked to the back office. I found a piece of thick white paper, the same kind I used for my menus. I took a black permanent marker from the desk drawer. My hand was perfectly steady as I uncapped it. In clean block letters, I wrote, "Policy announcement, effective, immediately. This establishment is closed to family. No reservations. No discounts. No exceptions. I'm certain." I read the words over. They looked stark and brutal on the clean white page, and they felt like the truest thing I had ever written. I walked back to the front of the restaurant, the sign in my hand. The street outside was dark and quiet now. I opened the heavy wooden door and stepped outside into the cool night air. I took a roll of packing tape from my pocket and carefully, precisely taped the sign to the inside of the glass door, facing out. It was a declaration, a line drawn not in the sand, but in concrete. I went back inside and locked the door. For the first time all night, the silence didn't feel crushing. It felt like my own. It felt like peace. I had cleaned up the mess, folded the napkins, and shut the door on the people who had hurt me. Haven Hearth was no longer just a restaurant. It was my haven. And I was the only one with the key. The next morning, I was at the restaurant by 5 a.m. I hadn't slept. I'd gone home, showered, and put on a clean chef's coat. But I felt like the grime of the previous night was still clinging to my skin. Sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. Failure wasn't an option. My family might have thought my opening night was a joke. But I had investors. I had a payroll to meet. I had a reputation to build from scratch. I spent the morning taking inventory, re-prepping ingredients, and talking to my suppliers. I called my staff and told them we were opening for real tonight, no matter what. Their voices were full of support. They believed in me. It was a small comfort, but it was something. Around noon, I was in the back alley breaking down cardboard boxes. It was a mundane physical task that helped me channel the anger that was simmering just beneath my surface. The alley was grim, smelling of garbage and stale beer from the bar next door. It was the unglamorous side of the dream, the part no one sees. As I crushed a box under my foot, I heard a voice behind me. There she is, the celebrity chef. I froze. I knew that voice. I turned slowly. It was Ethan. He was leaning against the graffitied brick wall, a smug grin on his face. He was holding a small square cardboard box. "What do you want, Ethan?" I asked. My voice was flat, devoid of emotion. He pushed himself off the wall and walked towards me, holding out the box. "Bro, peace offering. It's leftover cake from the party. Mom's carrot cake. Your favorite?" I stared at the box. Leftover cake? He was offering me the scraps from the party they chose over me. The audacity of it was breathtaking. It wasn't a peace offering. It was an insult. It was a reminder of my place in the family hierarchy. He gets the party. I get the leftovers. "I don't want it," I said. His grin faltered for a second. He seemed genuinely confused. "What? Why not? It's good. We just had too much." "I don't do leftovers, Ethan." He let out a short, frustrated laugh. "Okay. Wow. Somebody's in a mood. Look, Victoria, we're sorry we missed your thing last night. We really are." "My thing," I repeated, the words dripping with ice. It was my grand opening. The thing I have been working on for 10 years. I know, he said, waving his hand dismissively as if swatting away a fly. "And we were going to come. I swear. But then my promotion became official, and Dad decided to throw a little get-together. It was all very last minute. We didn't think it was a big deal. Dad said it was just a soft launch anyway. That you were just testing things out. A soft launch. The lie my mother had told my cousin now being presented to me as fact by my father. They had coordinated their story to minimize my work, my dream, my night. They had downgraded my grand opening to a dress rehearsal to absolve themselves of guilt. A cold, hard rage, unlike anything I had ever felt before, rose up in me. But my voice remained calm. Deadly calm. I took a step towards him, out of the shadows of the dumpster and into the flat gray light of the alley. It was not a soft launch, I said. My eyes locked on his. It was the only launch. And you weren't there. None of you were there. You didn't call. You didn't text. You posted pictures of yourselves having a great time while I stood in an empty restaurant. He had the grace to look a little ashamed, but it was fleeting. Defensiveness kicked in immediately. Well, what were we supposed to do? It was a party for me. I couldn't just leave. No, I said, the word sharp and final. You couldn't. You made your choice. You chose his party over mine. You always choose him. The whole family always chooses him. That's not fair, he mumbled, but his eyes wouldn't meet mine. Isn't it? I took another step. He instinctively took a step back. You're late, Ethan. You're a day late to the most important night of my life. And you brought me scraps. You think a piece of cake fixes this? He looked down at the box in his hands as if seeing it for the first time. I didn't think of it like that. No, I said. You didn't think of me at all. I turned my back on him and walked to the heavy metal door that led back into my kitchen. My sanctuary. I could feel his eyes on my back. So what now? He called out, his voice laced with frustration. You're just going to be mad forever? Dad wants to talk to you about getting a family table set up. I stopped, my hand on the doorknob. I didn't even turn around. You can tell Dad that the family table has been permanently unset. I pulled the door open, stepped inside into the warm, familiar smells of my kitchen, and let it swing shut behind me. I didn't slam it. I let it close with a heavy, solid thud. Then I slid the deadbolt across. The loud metallic click echoed in the alley. I leaned my forehead against the cool metal of the door. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. But I wasn't crying. I looked out the small, grimy window and saw Ethan standing there for a moment, looking lost. He placed the cake box on top of the dumpster, turned, and walked away. I watched him go, and I knew with absolute certainty that I had done the right thing. The confrontation with Ethan was a turning point. It wasn't just about him or the leftover cake. It was about me finally saying the words I had swallowed my entire life. It was terrifying, but it was also liberating. That small act of locking the door behind him felt like the first step in building a fortress around myself and my dream. But I knew one deadbolt wasn't going to be enough. The sign I had posted, "Closed to family," was an emotional boundary. Now I needed to make it physical. The next morning, I called a locksmith. He arrived within the hour. "Changing all the locks?" he asked. "All of them?" I confirmed. "Front door, back door, office door, everything." As he worked, I felt a strange sense of calm. Each turn of his screwdriver was a tangible act of reclaiming my space. This building wasn't just a place of business. It was an extension of me. No one was going to walk in here and treat it like their personal clubhouse ever again. He handed me a set of new, gleaming keys. They felt heavy and solid in my palm. They felt like power. "Thanks," I told him. "I have another job for you if you have the time." My apartment. While he changed the lock on my apartment door, I stood in my living room and looked around. This space, too, was mine. My parents had a spare key. Ethan had a spare key. Not anymore. When the locksmith left, I held 2 sets of new keys in my hand. One for my dream. One for my life. For the first time, I felt truly secure in both. That evening, before service, I took down the first sign, the angry, raw one. The backlash from that one had already started. My phone was full of texts from cousins and aunts. "What is this? Victoria, this is so harsh. Your mother is heartbroken." I ignored them. The first sign had served its purpose. It was a cry of pain. The new one would be a statement of fact. I took out another piece of my best cardstock. This time, I used a fine-tipped calligraphy pen. It read, "Reservations are required for all guests. We look forward to serving you even if we share DNA. If you could..." It was firm, but it had a touch of wry humor. It wasn't screaming in anger. It was stating a policy with unshakable confidence. I posted it on the front door right at eye level. That night, we had a full house. Word had gotten out about the family emergency on opening night, and the local community seemed determined to make up for it. The dining room was filled with the warm buzz of conversation. From my spot in the kitchen, I watched them through the diamond-shaped window, and a feeling of deep, profound gratitude washed over me. These strangers were giving me what my own family wouldn't: a chance. The next day, my new sign went viral. Someone had taken a picture of it and posted it on a local Chicago foodie blog. The title of the post was, "A new restaurant on Halsted draws a line in the marinara sauce." The author praised the sign's classy defiance. And then the comments started rolling in. "I don't know who this chef is, but I'm already rooting for her. Setting boundaries is the secret ingredient to success. Booking a reservation for next week just to support this energy." I sat in my small office scrolling through the comments on my phone. And for the first time in 48 hours, I cried. But these weren't tears of hurt. They were tears of relief. The validation was overwhelming. All these strangers understood. They saw the sign not as an act of childish rebellion, but as an act of adult self-preservation. For my entire life, I had been a ship sailing in the wake of my family, desperately trying to catch up, to be noticed. I had measured my self-worth by their standards. Now, reading the words of people who didn't even know me, I realized I had been looking in the wrong place all along. Their approval was a currency I no longer needed. The validation from strangers was a warm, protective blanket, but it couldn't completely shield me from the storm that was brewing at home. The viral sign had done more than just attract supportive customers. It had publicly embarrassed my family, and they were not going to take it lying down. The calls started on a Tuesday during the peak of our dinner rush. Mia, the hostess, answered the phone and her face fell. She held the phone out to me. "It's your mother," she whispered. I took the phone and walked to the dry storage room. "This is Victoria." "Victoria Harper, you take that ridiculous sign down right now." My mother's voice was a low, furious hiss. "No," I said simply. "You are embarrassing this family. People are talking. Your Aunt Linda called me mortified. She saw it on her computer." "Then Aunt Linda should make a reservation if she wants to come in," I replied. "This is not a joke. This is childish," she snapped. "We made a mistake. We said we were sorry. What more do you want?" "You never said you were sorry," I pointed out. "Ethan brought me old cake and told me you all thought it was a soft launch. That's not an apology. That's an insult." Then my father's voice came on the line, loud and booming. "Victoria, that's enough. Your mother is upset. We are your family. We support you." "You support me." I let out a laugh that was sharp and humorless. "You didn't support me on opening night. You support what you think this restaurant can do for you." "You are twisting things," he thundered. "You've always been too sensitive." That was their go-to line. "Too sensitive." "I'm not sensitive," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "I'm done. Don't call the restaurant again during service hours." I hung up. The next day, the real attack began. Fake reviews started flooding our Yelp and Google pages. 1 star. Generic names. Food was completely cold. Staff was incredibly rude. The owner stood in the corner and stared at us. I sat in my office reading them, a cold knot of dread tightening in my stomach. This was sabotage. It was a coordinated attack. They were trying to ruin my reputation to scare away the customers. I knew with a certainty that my family was behind this. The jab about me staring felt like something my mother would say. The complaint about cold food was a direct assault on my skill as a chef. My sous chef, Sophia, found me staring at the screen. "Chef, what's wrong?" I pointed at the reviews. She read them, her expression hardening. "This is garbage. None of this happened. Our food is never cold. I know, I whispered. It's them. It's my family. How do you fight an enemy that shares your blood? For a moment, I felt a flicker of despair. But then I looked at Sophia, at her fierce, loyal face. I thought about Mia and my line cooks. This wasn't just my dream anymore. It was their livelihood, too. The despair hardened into resolve. They had underestimated me my whole life. They thought I would crumble. They were wrong. I needed to do something bigger. I needed to expose their lies. And I knew just the person to help me. A few months before opening, a food journalist named Catherine Cole had visited Haven Hearth for a sneak peek and written a glowing piece. She seemed like someone who understood the heart behind a chef's work. I hesitated, but the alternative was letting them destroy everything. I dialed her number. Catherine, this is Victoria Harper from Haven Hearth. That sign. It's connected to something bigger. It's not just a boundary. It's a shield. My family skipped my grand opening to attend my brother's promotion party. And now I believe they are actively trying to sabotage my restaurant with fake online reviews. Catherine's voice sharpened with professional intrigue. Sabotage? Fake reviews? That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof? Yes, I said. I have the text from my mother lying about the soft launch. I have the photo of them at my brother's party on my opening night. I have screenshots of the fake reviews and our reservation logs to prove none of those customers ever came here. And I have my staff. We set up a meeting. I gathered every piece of evidence. Screenshots. Timestamps. Logbooks. My staff volunteered to corroborate my story. The next day, a prominent local newspaper hit the stands. On the front page was a picture of me standing proudly in my kitchen. The headline, Chef Victoria Harper's family plotted to ruin her restaurant, a tale of betrayal and resilience. Imus. The article was a searing exposé. Catherine had captured every detail. She juxtaposed my mother's text with the photo of the party. She cross-referenced the fake reviews with my reservation logs. It portrayed my family not as loving, but as manipulative and self-serving. The public reaction was immediate and ferocious. My phone went silent from family calls, but social media exploded. Stand with Victoria began trending. Thousands of messages of support flooded in. Strangers championed my courage. The comment section was a public forum for outrage against my family's behavior. I sat at my desk, tears streaming down my face. These were tears of validation. They had tried to destroy my restaurant, but by doing so, they had accidentally revealed their true colors to the world. One afternoon, a few days after the article broke, Mia poked her head into the office. Victoria, someone's here to see you. It's Olivia Brooks, Ethan's fiancée. My heart hammered. Was she here to scold me? Send her in, I said. Olivia walked in, looking pale and drawn. She was clutching her purse strap tightly. Victoria, she began, her voice almost a whisper. "Thank you for seeing me. I saw the article. It's all true, isn't it?" "Every word," I confirmed. She looked up, eyes brimming with tears. "I am so so sorry. I knew. Victoria. I knew what they were doing." My blood ran cold. "What?" "The group chat," she whispered. "Project Reset." "Project Reset? What is that?" Olivia pulled out her phone. "It was my idea at first, just a name for the wedding chat. But your parents took it over. After the sign went viral, they changed the name to just Project Reset. It became about you. They said you needed to be "we're set. Put back in your place." She slid the phone across the desk. I picked it up, my hands shaking. It was a horrifying thread of messages. My mother, my father, Ethan, all conspiring. They were discussing the fake reviews in detail. My father was talking about calling the health department with anonymous tips. My mother was suggesting contacting my investors to say I was unstable. And then the ultimate betrayal. They were planning to gather enough damaging information to force me into selling Haven and Hearth so Ethan could buy it out and turn it into a chain. "They want to ruin you," Olivia said, tears falling freely. "I can't be a part of it anymore." I tried to tell Ethan to stop. He just laughed at me. She looked down at her left hand, pulled off her diamond engagement ring, and placed it on the desk. "I called off the engagement this morning. I can't marry into a family that does this to their own daughter. And before I go, I want to send you all of this. Everything. I want to leak it. Are you okay with that?" I asked. "Once it's out there, there's no taking it back." "Yes," she said firmly. "Send it all." My phone began buzzing with the incoming data. If this story has touched you, please subscribe to the channel and share this video to help me grow and continue telling stories like this. Within hours, the new headlines surged. Family betrayal exposed. Secret group chat reveals plot to destroy chef's business. 1. The story of Project Reset went national. My family's names were dragged through the mud. But for Haven and Hearth, it was a miracle. The reservation line exploded. We were booked solid for 6 weeks. The restaurant was thriving. My landlord called. Instead of being concerned, he was impressed. "You're a phenomenon, Victoria. I'd like to extend your lease for 5 years, and I'm locking in your current rent." It was a lifeline. And then came the call from the Culinary Chronicle. They wanted me for their cover story. A few weeks later, there it was, my face. Resolute and strong. The headline, "The Chef Who Survived the Fire." Oh. My family was in disarray. They sent desperate texts pleading, gaslighting, blaming Olivia. I deleted them all. I didn't respond. Their words held no power over me anymore. A year passed. One crisp autumn morning, a heavy envelope with gold foil arrived. You are cordially invited to celebrate the marriage of Ethan Alexander Harper and Natalie Pierce. Ethan was marrying someone else. The date was 6 weeks away. I stared at the invitation and laughed. Instead of replying, I picked up another piece of paper, a lease agreement for a new, larger space downtown. A second restaurant. I uncapped my pen. The gold foil invitation sat beside the lease. One represented a past I was leaving behind. The other, a future I was building. I signed my name on the lease, Victoria Harper. The name Harper was no longer a burden. It was a legacy I was reclaiming. The new restaurant would be called Harper and Hearth. The grand opening of Harper and Hearth was magnificent. As the applause died down, Catherine Cole stepped forward with a microphone. Chef Harper, on this momentous occasion, what would you like to say to your family now? The room went silent. I looked out at my loyal staff, my investors, my customers. The anger was gone, replaced by peace. Nothing, I said, my voice clear. I have nothing to say to them. The crowd erupted in applause. Later that night, back in the quiet kitchen of the original Haven and Hearth, I was kneading dough for tomorrow's focaccia. A young woman approached me, shy and tentative. Chef Harper, she asked. My daughter wants to be a chef. She's afraid she's not good enough. My heart squeezed. I stopped kneading and looked at her. I picked up a menu and handed it to her. Tell your daughter this, I said. They said the same to me. They told me I couldn't do it. And look at me now. The woman smiled, hope igniting in her eyes. I will. Thank you, Victoria. I watched her go, then turned back to my dough. If you've ever been ignored by family, or told you're not good enough, remember this: you don't need their applause to succeed. Build your own haven, light your own hearth, and simply smile. Because you're still here. And look at you now. My voice calm and reflective. I believed success looked a certain way. It had a prestigious title, a corner office, the approval of my family. I chased it, or at least I tried to, in a way that fit those expectations. I reached into my pocket and pulled something out. It was a small, crumpled piece of paper. It was my old business card, the one Preston had stomped on that night, carefully retrieved and preserved. I held it up for the audience to see. It was mangled, torn, but still recognizable. This, I said, my voice resonating with quiet power, is a relic from a time when my definition of success was still being shaped. It was dismissed. It was ridiculed. It was quite literally trampled on. A ripple of understanding passed through the audience. They leaned forward, captivated. But what I learned, I continued, is that true power isn't in the title someone else gives you. It's not in the approval of others. It's in the patience you cultivate, the vision you hold on to, and the quiet, relentless perseverance you bring to your dreams, even when no one else sees them. I spoke about the journey of Aurora Ventures, about identifying overlooked opportunities, about building something meaningful from the ground up, about believing in my own capabilities when others doubted. I spoke about the difficult choices, the moments of self-doubt, and the unwavering conviction that kept me going. I didn't mention Preston by name, or my parents directly, but the context was clear. My story was a testament to the power of being underestimated. When I finished, the applause was deafening, a standing ovation that went on and on. It wasn't just for my business acumen. It was for the raw honesty, the quiet strength, and the vindication of a path less traveled. As I looked out at those faces, I felt a deep, profound sense of peace. This was my success, defined by me, built by me, and finally acknowledged on my own terms. The crumpled business card, once a symbol of shame, was now a powerful prop, a testament to where I had been and how far I had come. It was a tangible reminder that sometimes the greatest victories are forged in the fires of dismissal and doubt. My vindication was complete. My peace was earned. From my spacious, sun-drenched office in the Meridian Technologies building in Seattle, I often look out at the cityscape. The Space Needle gleams in the distance, a symbol of aspiration and innovation. The bustling streets below are filled with people chasing their own dreams, facing their own struggles. My old, unassuming sedan is now parked in a reserved spot, but it still feels like the same car, the same Victoria, just with a much clearer view of the world. True power, I've learned, wasn't in the fancy titles or the public accolades. It wasn't in having my parents finally acknowledge my worth, though that would have been nice. It was in something far more profound. It was in the quiet patience I cultivated through years of being overlooked. It was in the unwavering vision I held for Aurora Ventures, even when it was just a whispered idea in my head. And most of all, it was in the relentless, quiet perseverance I applied every single day, building something real, something valuable, brick by methodical brick, while everyone else was busy looking the other way. I pick up a small framed photo from my desk. It's of Grandma Evelyn, her eyes full of warmth and wisdom. She saw something in me, something that my own family missed. She believed in my ability to make it grow. And I did. I truly did. The crumpled business card, the one Preston stomped on, sits on my desk under a small glass paperweight. It's a permanent reminder not of bitterness, but of the strength that came from being underestimated. It reminds me that sometimes the greatest motivation comes from those who refuse to see your potential. And if you've ever felt that sting, if you've ever been mocked for chasing your dream, for daring to forge your own path, for being a freelancer in a world that only respects executives, I want you to know this: don't let their dismissals define you. Let them fuel you. Let their laughter become the quiet hum of determination in your own heart. Because the world is full of people who only see success one way. But your way, the unconventional, underestimated way, might just be the one that rises higher than anyone, even you, ever imagined. tired from a day of playing by the lake, were quieter than usual. My heart hammered against my ribs, a drumbeat of anticipation and fear. I had checked the footage again just before dinner. The cockroach. The tweezers. The sickening precision. It was all there. Damning and undeniable. I had the flash drive in my pocket, hot against my thigh. Eleanor approached me, carrying my personal bento box. "Megan, darling," she cooed, her voice sugary, sweet. "I've prepared something extra delicate for you tonight. Just your style. I know how particular you are about your food." She placed the box in front of me, her eyes twinkling with a malicious satisfaction. I looked at the box, then at her. My smile, I knew, was as fake as hers. But beneath it, a cold, hard resolve had settled. This was it. No more playing along. No more swallowing the poison. Literally or figuratively. "Thank you, Eleanor," I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the tremor in my hands. And then, deliberately, with a slow, almost theatrical movement, I took the bento box and dropped it directly into the trash can beside my chair. It landed with a soft thud, a sound that seemed to echo in the sudden, shocked silence of the room. Gasps. David dropped his fork. William stared, his mouth slightly open. Ryan and Jessica exchanged wide-eyed glances. Eleanor's smile evaporated, replaced by a look of utter disbelief. Then slowly, a chilling fury. "Megan." Eleanor's voice was a sharp whisper laced with controlled rage. "What on earth do you think you're doing? I spent hours preparing that." I ignored her, my eyes fixed on David. "I know exactly what was prepared for me, Eleanor," I said, my voice rising. Clearer now. I pulled my laptop out of my bag, its screen a sudden beacon in the soft dining room light. And I think everyone at this table deserves to see it, too. I placed the laptop squarely in the middle of the table. Facing everyone, the screen flickered to life. I opened the file. The kitchen camera footage. My fingers trembled as I hit play. The silent video began. Eleanor in her pristine white gloves. The furtive glance. The purse. The Tupperware. The long silver tweezers. The live cockroach. The meticulous placement on my rice. The sesame seeds, every horrifying detail playing out in agonizing slow motion for all to see. The initial gasps turned to choked sounds of horror. William leaned forward, his face paling, eyes wide with disbelief. Ryan pushed his chair back, a low groan escaping him. Jessica covered her mouth with her hand, tears welling in her eyes. David, my husband, was frozen. His eyes were glued to the screen, his face a mask of dawning horror. As the roach was placed, as the sesame seeds covered it, a single, guttural whisper escaped his lips. Oh my God. His face went from disbelief to a sickening realization. The blinders were off. He saw it. He finally saw it. The footage ended. The silence in the room was deafening, thick with shock and disgust. Eleanor, her face a mask of incandescent fury, slammed her hand on the table. "This is a lie," she shrieked, her carefully composed facade finally shattering. Her voice was no longer honeyed, but raw, venomous. A disgusting fabrication. "You set this up. You're a liar, Megan. A manipulative, gold-digging witch." I met her gaze, unflinching. "It's all right there, Eleanor. Your own hands, your own purse, your own deliberate act. You never belonged here," she screamed, pointing a trembling finger at me. Her face was contorted with pure hatred. All traces of her elegant matriarch persona gone. "You stole my son! You poisoned him against me! You're a nobody! You'll never be good enough for this family!" The torrent of venom washed over me. But instead of shrinking, I felt a strange sense of calm. Her mask was off. The truth was finally out. Then William, Eleanor's husband, slammed his fist on the table. It was a sound I had never heard from him before. A booming, authoritative sound that instantly silenced Eleanor's tirade. His face was beet red, his jaw tight. "That is enough, Eleanor," he roared, his voice shaking with a cold fury. "You have gone too far. You endangered the mother of my grandchildren. You've disgraced this family with your vile, hateful behavior." He turned to David, his voice calmer, but no less firm. "David, take Megan and the boys. Go. Get out of here now." David, still pale, but with a new look of fierce protectiveness in his eyes, stood up. He walked over to me, put an arm around my shoulder, and gently guided me away from the table. He didn't say a word, but his grip was firm, his presence a solid comfort. Our boys, wide-eyed and scared, clung to us. "William, no," Eleanor shrieked, regaining her voice. "You can't let them leave. She's lying." William just stared at her, his expression one of profound disappointment and anger. "I will handle Eleanor," he said, his voice cold as ice. "Just go. David, take your family. I'll call you later." As we walked out of the dining room, past the stunned Ryan and Jessica, I didn't look back. The sounds of Eleanor's sobbing and William's low, angry voice faded as we reached the front door. David quickly bundled us into the car. As he started the engine, I looked at him. His eyes, usually so gentle and trusting, were now filled with a deep sorrow and something else. A fierce, protective love for me and our children. He finally saw. And in that moment, As the cabin disappeared behind us, I knew everything had changed. The battle was over, and I had won. The drive back to Seattle was silent, heavy with the weight of what had just happened. Alex and Ben, sensing the tension, had fallen asleep in their car seats, their innocent faces a stark contrast to the emotional battlefield we had just left. David's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. He didn't say anything for a long time, and neither did I. There was nothing to say. The video had spoken volumes. When we finally got home, the boys were still asleep. David gently carried them to their beds, then came back to the living room where I was sitting, staring blankly at the wall. He sat beside me, pulled me into his arms, and just held me. He didn't try to explain or justify. He just held me, and in his embrace, I felt the raw emotion finally break through. Tears streamed down my face. Tears for all the years of hurt, for the subtle attacks, for the feeling of being an outsider, and tears of relief. Relief that it was finally out, finally seen. "I'm so sorry. Megan," he whispered, his voice thick with guilt and shame. "I'm so incredibly sorry I didn't see it. I should have listened to you. I should have protected you." "It's okay, David," I managed, my voice muffled against his shirt. "It's over now. You see it." And that was all that mattered. The next morning, the phone calls started. William called first. His voice was tired, defeated. "David. Megan. I've taken Eleanor to a hotel. I can't have her in the house right now. I've spoken to her. She's not denying it anymore. Not really. Just rambling about how you ruined her family." He sighed. A heavy, weary sound. "I'm going to file for divorce. David. I can't live like this anymore. Not after what she did to Megan." My heart ached for William. He was a good man, caught in the crossfire of his wife's malice. But also, a sense of justice settled over me. Eleanor's actions had consequences. Finally. Then later that day, I made my own call to the police. It felt strange, almost surreal to recount the events of the weekend, to describe the cockroach, the expired chocolate. But as I spoke, I realized how serious it was. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was assault. This was harassment. I provided them with Michael's flash drive, with the clear, irrefutable video evidence. Eleanor was served with a restraining order. It meant she couldn't come within 500 feet of me or our children. It felt like a physical barrier, a wall of protection that had been desperately needed. The legal process was slow, but the immediate safety it provided was immense. The idea of her just showing up at our door with her fake smile and her special gifts was now gone. The news of William divorcing Eleanor spread through the family like wildfire. Ryan and Jessica called, both expressing shock and disgust. Jessica, her voice trembling. apologized profusely for not speaking up sooner, for not seeing the depth of Eleanor's cruelty. "I always knew she was difficult," she confessed. "But I never imagined. I'm so sorry. Megan." It wasn't just my perception anymore. The entire family now saw Eleanor unmasked. Life slowly began to change. Our house, once subtly infiltrated by Eleanor's presence, now felt lighter, freer. The boys flourished without the underlying tension. David, now fully aware, was fiercely protective. He became my staunch ally, ensuring Eleanor had no way to reach us. He started therapy, too, trying to process years of his mother's manipulation. Months passed. The legal proceedings for the divorce continued. Eleanor, cut off from William's finances, found herself alone and increasingly desperate. She tried to contact David, begging for money, for help. David, with a newfound strength, held firm. He told her she needed to take responsibility for her actions. Then, one cold, rainy afternoon, my phone rang. An unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. It was Eleanor. Her voice, usually so poised, was thin, reedy, laced with desperation. "Megan," she pleaded, her voice raspy. "Please, you have to help me. William has cut me off. I have nowhere to go. No money. I'm alone. I'm sorry. Megan. I truly am. Please. Can't you talk to David? Can't you just forgive me?" Her apology felt hollow, born of desperation, not genuine remorse. But her vulnerability, her utter defeat, was chilling. This was the woman who had terrorized me for years, now stripped of all her power, all her resources, penniless and alone. I closed my eyes, picturing the bento box, the cockroach, the decade-old chocolate. I thought of the countless subtle insults, the weaponized kindness, the way she had chipped away at my self-worth. I thought of my boys and the need to protect them from such venom. My reply was cold, steady, and direct. "You wanted me gone, Eleanor," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "You tried to drive me out of this family. You tried to poison me, to humiliate me. You made your choices. Now you are." I hung up the phone. The silence in the house was profound. No more manipulative calls. No more veiled threats. I walked to the backyard. Alex and Ben were there, kicking a soccer ball, their laughter bright and clear against the gray Seattle sky. They were truly free, unburdened by the dark shadow Eleanor had cast over our lives. I watched them, a profound sense of peace settling over me. Eleanor's power was gone forever, and in that freedom, in their laughter, I found my own quiet strength, my own deep, unshakable peace. The silence after I hung up on Eleanor was the most profound peace I had ever known. It wasn't just the absence of her voice. It was the absence of her influence. Her constant, insidious presence in the back of my mind. The endless stream of questions and doubts she had planted. The subtle ways she made me second-guess myself. All of it seemed to dissolve with that final click. She was gone. Her power over me, over our family, was utterly, completely broken. The legal process moved forward. Eleanor faced a restraining order, which meant she could not come near me or the boys. It was a formal, legal barrier, a line she could not cross. It felt like a physical weight had been lifted from my shoulders. The constant anxiety of a potential encounter, of seeing her unblinking smile, finally gone. William's divorce from her was finalized, and with it, her access to the life she had so carefully constructed. He had been surprisingly firm, and I knew it broke his heart. But he stood by his decision. He had seen the truth, and he had chosen his grandchildren's safety over a toxic loyalty. In the months that followed, our lives settled into a new normal, a truly peaceful one. Our home felt different, lighter. The fridge was still covered in crayon drawings, but now they felt purely joyful, untainted by the possibility of Eleanor's critical gaze. Story time at night was just that, a time for stories, not for me to mentally prepare for the next family gathering. My modest suburban life, which Eleanor had so often tried to belittle, now felt like a fortress of warmth and love. David was a changed man. The veil had been lifted, and he saw his mother for who she truly was. It had been painful for him, a difficult reckoning with his past, but he faced it head-on. He apologized to me countless times, not just for his blindness, but for all the times he hadn't fully supported me, for all the times he'd asked me to just get along. He started therapy, processing the years of his mother's subtle manipulation, learning to untangle his own emotions from hers. Our marriage became stronger, deeper, built on a foundation of absolute trust and understanding. We were a team, truly, without any hidden loyalties or unspoken fears. I, too, changed. The victimhood I had felt for so long, the quiet acceptance of Eleanor's cruelty, began to fade. It was replaced by a quiet strength, a fierce protectiveness, and a newfound confidence. I realized that Eleanor's tactics had always been about controlling me, about making me doubt myself, so I wouldn't challenge her authority or her perfect family facade. But by exposing her, I had stripped her of that control. I had stood up for myself, for my children, and in doing so, I had found my own voice, clear and unwavering. One sunny afternoon, I was in the backyard watching Alex and Ben. They were playing with the dog, chasing each other, their laughter echoing through the air. Pure, unadulterated joy. It was a simple scene, but profoundly beautiful. I knelt down, feeling the warm grass beneath my hands, and just watched them. Their faces were carefree, their eyes bright. They were thriving. Eleanor's call, her desperate plea, was a distant memory. I had made my choice. My choice was to protect this, to protect their innocence, their happiness, their future. And that meant creating a boundary, a permanent separation from someone who sought to poison it. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about self-preservation. It was about finally choosing myself and my children over the toxic dynamics of a manipulative family. As I watched my boys, their laughter filling the air, I felt a deep, profound sense of peace. This was freedom. Not just freedom from Eleanor's physical presence, but freedom from her emotional grip, the power she once held, the subtle control, the weaponized kindness. All of it was gone forever. And in its place was the quiet, powerful realization that our family, my little imperfect, crayon on the fridge family, was finally, truly, and happily free.